I stole from my job. And they never found out. A few years ago, I was working an hourly job. Nothing special. Nothing glamorous. Just the kind of job where you watch the clock more than you watch your future. Every shift felt the same. Clock in. Work. Count the hours. Clock out. And every payday felt disappointing. I remember staring at my paycheck once, doing the math in my head, thinking, that's it? That was the seed. Not greed. Just frustration. At least that's what I told myself. One evening after my shift ended, I was tired. Mentally drained. I had given what felt like 100% that day. But when I clocked out, I noticed something. The system allowed you to manually adjust your time entries. You could edit your clock out time. I stared at the screen for a few seconds longer than I should have. 10 minutes. That's all it would take. 10 minutes extra pay. Barely noticeable. The company was massive. Hundreds of employees. Thousands, maybe. What's 10 minutes to them? My heart was beating faster than it should have for something so small. I remember actually looking around, as if someone could see what I was about to do through the screen. And then I did it. I changed my clock out time. 10 minutes later than I actually left. Click. Save. That was it. No alarms. No pop-ups. No warning emails. Just silence. On my next paycheck, it was there. A little extra money. Small enough to ignore, but big enough to notice. And something dangerous happened in that moment. I felt justified. Not guilty. Justified. I told myself, they underpay me anyway. I work harder than half the people here. They won't even feel it. That's the thing about crossing a line. The first time is the hardest. The second time? Easier. A week later, I did it again. This time 15 minutes. I made it random so it wouldn't look suspicious. Some days 8 minutes. Some days 12. Some days 17. Always careful. Always calculated. Never enough to raise attention. After each shift, I developed a ritual. Sit down. Open the system. Pause. Think. Then adjust the time. Click. Save. Go home. It became routine. And routines don't feel like crimes. They feel normal. Months passed. 10 minutes here. 15 there. It didn't feel like stealing. It felt like balancing the scales. Until I did the math one day. I added it up roughly in my head. It had probably turned into a few $100s. Not thousands. Not life-changing money. Just a few hundred. And that's when something shifted. Because suddenly it didn't feel small anymore. It felt intentional. Here's what's crazy. Nobody ever said anything. No manager called me in. No HR email. No system warning. Nothing. I kept waiting for that tap on the shoulder. That we need to talk. It never came. Eventually, I left the job for completely unrelated reasons. New opportunity. Different direction. I walked out on my last day like every other employee. They shook my hand. Told me good luck. And that was it. As far as I know, they never found out. But here's what no one talks about when you get away with something. You don't actually escape it. Because even if no one confronts you, you remember. Years later, I still remember the feeling of sitting in front of that screen. The hesitation. The rationalization. The click. What bothers me isn't the money. It's how easily I convinced myself that my integrity had a price. And the price wasn't even high. A few $100s? That's what my standards were worth. That realization hit harder than any punishment could have. I've grown a lot since then. I've had better jobs. Bigger responsibilities. More trust placed in my hands. And every time I'm trusted with something now, I think back to that younger version of myself. Frustrated. Impatient. Justifying. I don't hate that version of me. But I understand him. He thought no one was watching. And technically, no one was. But character isn't about being watched. It's about who you are when you aren't. That was a small moment in my life. But small moments build who you become. I haven't done anything like that since. Not because I'm afraid of getting caught, but because I learned something deeper. If you compromise your integrity in small amounts, you train yourself to compromise it in bigger ones. And I didn't want to become that person. They never confronted me. They never found out. But I did. And in the end, that was enough. Because the hardest person to explain your choices to is yourself.